Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Let's Talk Talent, your go to podcast for all things talent development. I'm your host, Wina Puangkumutuk. I'm a poet, educator, and talent development professional, and today we are talking to Francine Tan, Chief of Staff at Eskwelabs. She is an educator, mental health, and people first advocate who spearheaded the launch of data literacy and basic data analytics programs at Eskwelabs since March 2020 when the Philippines first went into lockdowns. Her vision for having kind and humane workplaces has led her to design, launch, and execute the Education Innovation Fellowship. This is a key shaped internship with an NPS of 100 since its establishment in January 2023. That is equal parts learning and work opportunity for incoming junior and existing senior talents in the company. Today, she continues to speak in conferences and panels that highlight the intersection of the future of work and the future of learning. Thank you, Fran, and welcome to the show.
Hi, Weena. Thank you so much for having me. And
Okay.
hello, everyone listening. Hello, hello.
Hi everyone. Yeah. So today we're going to get to know Fran or Francine from Eskwelabs a little bit better. And Fran, maybe we can start with you telling us your career story and yeah, where are you at this current point as well?
Mm, okay, so I began my working life at the FMCG. So it was at corporate HR. I focus on employee engagement, and it brought me a lot of joy. Designing strategies, initiatives. To make the employees like happy, excited to go to work every day. After a brief stint there, I found myself working at an NGO setup naman. I focus on internal and external communications. And then afterwards, a few years later, I find myself in a startup. So, community producer. The startup is called Eskwelabs, and it's an upskilling school, right? We design, we deliver learning experiences. And if you notice the theme of the work or the organizations I've been in, I've always been in a people or communications or creatives role. And instead of just like super diving into the nitty gritty of like this is what I did there, this is what I did here, I want to share with you Ina three like realizations I've had and lessons. Maybe hopefully it'll help listeners of the podcast. The first one is it was so crucial for me to find a strong sense of self or to have a strong sense of self. What I mean by that is like what are my core values, what are my core beliefs, because that actually has led me to navigate, from one org to the other or my next career move. That has allowed me to have like peace of mind and confidence in my decisions. And second would be like it's not just about openness to new experiences, but also openness to like new stories about yourself. Because for me, I was kind of tied to like, oh, this is what I am or this is what I do. But actually, there are new chapters in the story I could write for myself. So that was so key for me to realize. And then the third is you can pursue your passion responsibly. So that statement, it came from my first internship boss. So when I was in my graphic designer days in the internship, and the when she said that to me, it was a game changer because it showed me that I need both my head and my heart when I make, these different career journey decisions. Um, so today I am chief of staff at Eskwelabs. This is where my head and my heart has led me, and I'm really happily, leading the team at Eskwelabs, whether it's for their, learning and development or uh, designing the org in general. So I'm very happy here.
That's great to hear. And I love that. I love you pursue your passion
Thank
responsibly.
you.
I think for people who are like us, who are kind of
Mhm.
creative, and of course who,
Mhm.
are still kind of young, parang we're
Mhm.
still balancing that and like really
Mhm.
figuring it out right now. So maybe I want to ask, you told us the story of like the pursue your passion responsibly,
Mhm.
but for like the other two things that you shared, was there
Mhm.
a certain process, or like
Mhm.
how did you get there before you were able to identify like what your values really were?
Mm. I think, well, it helps that I've always been a very reflective person. So at least that was already a starting point for me. Um, for sure, I did not know all my values right at the onset, because I honestly believe that you cannot really know yourself fully 100%, because we're ever changing, ever evolving. But what I did over the years, starting like from my college days, internship days, is I would like take stock of like what I hold true and like what I no longer hold true, like at every stopping point. And tying that to my second like lesson to myself is openness to new experiences and new stories, like just having a hard look at like what I've written down on the left side or right side of a paper or a Google Doc or whatever, and just like saying to myself, okay, Fran, it's okay that some of these aren't applicable anymore. So it was very hacked together, the process, nothing too fancy, just doing it over and over at every stop of the way.
Right. And I think that's very interesting because it's kind of an intuitive exercise
Mm-hmm.
in a way where
Mm-hmm.
I think all of us kind of have this impulse to do that, like to examine
Mm-hmm.
what we're doing with our lives. But a lot of the times, I think for some of our listeners, well, some of our listeners can reject, but I think for us, sometimes that can be overwhelming. But I
Mm-hmm.
think I really like the way that you described it, which is like taking stock, or it's more of also the openness to maybe say that, oh, this doesn't really like
Mm-hmm.
ring true for me anymore.
Yeah.
I guess that leads me to our next question, which
Mm-hmm.
kind of you already answered, like in terms of
Mm-hmm.
your talent philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe I kind of want to know a little bit more about how that kind of affects like how you approach your work, since Eskwelabs does deal a lot with both people and AI.
Well, if I can articulate it, into a more concrete statement, my talent philosophy and Eskwelabs is no one is a blank canvas. No one is a blank canvas. This is true for each individual, whether they've been in the industry for a long time. Specifically for fresh grads, they're not a blank canvas. Someone who is still studying, someone who's unemployed, for example, meaning there is a richness. There's a richness in their perspective, their life experience, their existing skill set. So this has shaped me as a talent development practitioner because it keeps me humble. It keeps me humble knowing that there's already so much that this person can give. And I'll give a concrete example in Eskwelab. So the way I designed our internship program, it's called the Education Innovation Fellowship. Instead of simply starting with, okay, this is the objective, 1 2 3, these are the organizational KPIs to hit, I was thinking of, okay, who are the people that will be coming in, how do I design the program around these people. It's because these people already are coming in, bringing right their own experiences, their own backgrounds and context. So that's a clear example. In Eskwelabs, we approach things from a human-centered or learner-centered perspective. And then the second of the two would be, because we see their journeys up to that moment, talent development becomes relational instead of transactional, right? It makes the act of talent development co-creative, participatory, making it more engaging for these people because they're also invested, right, in their growth, their learning, and they're invested also because they know how much you care about them. So I'll give another example. when team members offboard Eskwelabs, right? I'm the one who gives the exit interviews, and for me, it's always a heartwarming moment when, after months or years, I get messages where they want to come back, and we welcome them back. Actually, um, aside from that, as they are trying to find their way back to Eskwelabs, they actively promote Eskwelabs to the companies that they're part of. Like, oh, I learned this in Eskwelabs, or this is how we do it in Eskwelabs. Maybe we should do it here. That's because they were part of their own learning and development journey. So you kind of end up transforming these individuals to ambassadors also of your organization. Basically, they have skin in the game of their own development. This is very tied to Eskwelabs' core value of like going further together, so learning further together. So that's for us. Instead of, well, transactional talent development, it gets the job done, right? One plus one equals two. But for us, relational talent development, it gets it done. One plus one equals three. Or one plus one equals four. It does not make sense mathematically, but because we're looking, diba, at the intangibles.
Yeah, and I think it's also kind of like playing the long game,
Mm-hmm.
where people who leave don't really leave, right? It's like they
Mm-hmm.
leave for now, maybe for growth, to pursue something
Mm-hmm.
else, but eventually they come back, and that also contributes to whatever is happening in
Mm-hmm.
the ecosystem, like of Eskwelabs at the time. I love that. There's like flow um, in the talent development where it's not just okay, like learn this or okay, do
Mm-hmm.
this. And speaking of having like skin in the game, uh,
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to having people take accountability then for
Mm-hmm.
their learning, I
Mm-hmm.
think that can really be a great like jumping off point for them because
Mm-hmm.
like you said, I guess the whole thing about no one being a blank canvas can also go
Mm,
both ways. Now,
mm,
sometimes naman it's like there are some people who grew up like being disincentivized, like to learn, right? Or
mm,
to try new
mm,
things. And
mm,
so having that experience, I think for a lot of people, it's very transformative to see that
mm.
someone believes in their capability to learn and to be open. Yeah. You
Yeah,
want to share
learning
something about that?
lear- learning is not just an academic endeavor, it's an emotional endeavor. So fully agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. Like wala lang, like emotional endeavor super.
Mm.
I feel like I remember this is like off topic now, but
Yes, it's okay. It's
yeah,
okay.
let's just go with it. I remember when I was in college,
Mm,
because I shifted from an AB
mm,
course to a BS
mm,
course. And I
mm,
remember like a subject that I found really, really difficult
mm,
was inorganic chemistry.
mm,
Just because like, di ako masyadong, like di ako masyadong hard science kind of person. Like,
mm,
my
mm,
course is BS Psych, so I enjoyed like the psychology part of
mm,
it. Um, but I remember like the first time that I actually understood like what my prof was
mm,
trying to say. And you're right that it is something
mm.
emotional. Parang
Yeah.
there's something in me that just like got really like riled up. Yung parang it kind of
Mm,
feels
mm,
like a part of you is being unlocked. Like when you realize that
mm,
someone
mm.
believes in you and that you can like actually do it. Like this thing
Yeah.
that seems so impossible like at the beginning. Okay. I think now we can go more into siguro like the AI side of it. So a lot of the
Sure, sure.
times, like I guess the conversation surrounding AI and talent development is kind of like, oh, AI is gonna make jobs obsolete, or parang, you know, it's almost like taking out xenophobia on AI. Na
Mm,
parang,
mm,
oh, like what's this AI? Like it's gonna take over the world, you know. But
mm,
I guess I want to ask you about your take on AI because I
mm,
know that, of course, Eskwelabs like
mm,
really likes to integrate this into the learning
mm,
experience in a very human learning experience at that.
mm. Okay, I have a very long answer and a short answer. So the short and peace of mind giving answer is No, AI will not make a lot of jobs obsolete. And I'll dive deeper into that statement. So, this is my long answer. I can approach it from three layers. So, the first layer is first, what is your relationship to your job? What is your relationship to work in general? The second layer is who are we as human beings? And then the third is who are we to each other? So, let's start with the first layer, yung what is your relationship to your work? When you think of work or a job, it's right, it's a an aggregation of tasks and responsibilities, and you assign it right to individuals, to employees. And AI is capable, and not really just capable, but it's already assigned to do parts of our work. So I'll give myself as an example. As chief of staff, I write captions. Also, I write email drafts, presentation slides, graphics using generative AI tools. And first of all, the philosophy of Eskwelabs is never let AI have the last pass. Like, it should always be a human set of eyes to do the final editing and review. Um, so that's just an aside. So when you think about it, as chief of staff, my day to day doesn't just consist of like writing emails or creating slides. There's a whole other aspect of my work relating, for example, to the people side, talking to the team, like creating different strategies. So AI doesn't take jobs as a whole. There are tasks and bits and pieces of the work that we can delegate to AI. And the question is like, who wouldn't want, right, to delegate the heavy, the mundane, and the boring parts of the job to something else, um, with the mindset that AI will actually allow you to spend more time on the parts of work that you love. So for me, there's a time like in a month where I would meet with every single employee, every single team member. If I didn't have generative AI as like a productivity tool, I wouldn't be able to talk to everybody. So that actually connects me to the part of work that I love. So AI will not only reconnect you to the parts of work that you love, but it will actually create new jobs, ha? That's what we believe in Eskwelabs. Because, for example, calculators did not take away the jobs of, mathematicians. It only enhanced them. Photoshop did not take away the jobs of fine art painters. There are still fine art painters, and now there are graphic designers, there are multimedia designers. So, this is instead of a job taker, it's a job enhancer. So, that's the first layer. The second layer is who are you as a human being? So, you are a human being with emotions, with a personal background, whether good or bad experiences, and most importantly, empathy. AI cannot generate empathy. So I always tell my learners, our learners, hold on to your empathy and compassion. Because even if you have the technical skills and all that, AI cannot replicate human empathy and compassion. And in every type of work, whether present or future, empathy is going to be needed in some shape or form. And then the third layer, think of the times that you like called customer service, or you were just finding support for a query that you have, and you get connected to a robot or like an AI voice, right? And then you get frustrated because they're not capturing it properly, or you just wanna, have an actual person help you out. And then you go to Google and say, oh, is there a direct hotline? Connect me to a human. Humans will always be important in the future of work. And developers, they may say like, oh, but AI is getting better and better at, capturing these requests and understanding. That's great, right? But at the same time, is it human? It will never be. So as long as we understand who we are to each other, what we want from each other, why we trust and expect certain things like malasakit, we expect certain things like integrity and care. As long as AI cannot replicate that, which it never will because it's not sentient, it's not human, AI will not take our jobs. So that's the short and long answer to your question.
Thank you for that, Fran. And very, very substantial. I really like what you said about how, like, this robot, of course, cannot replicate empathy. And I
Mm,
think when it comes to work, especially, that part of working
mm,
is a little bit, you know, kind of underrated, I guess.
mm,
Most of my work is in culture building.
mm,
So I completely, like, that's something that, like, I always try to think about, like, how to
mm,
make people understand that it's not really, like, everything will become easier if you have that empathy, like, for your
mm,
coworkers, for your boss, for the
mm,
people who work under you. And I love that example about the calculator. I
mm,
kind of have a funny story for you as well. So I was talking to Sir Colin Christie. He's
mm,
with the Analytics Association of the Philippines,
mm.
and he was saying that he was old enough to have experienced the controversy around the scientific calculator.
Oh,
Yeah, because he's an engineer. So at the time, like, it was banned. Like, it's banned, yeah, in their university, because it was like, oh, we're teaching the engineers to cheat. Like,
oh my god.
yeah, like, they'll be stupid, they won't know anything, blah blah
Mm,
blah. And he said it's so strange to see that resurface now with people talking about AI, because it
mm.
brings back flashbacks.
Oh,
And now it's like scientific calculators, of course, right? Like, my
yeah.
god, like, the thought of taking like a trig exam without
Mm,
a cycle is just
yeah.
wild. Yeah.
Mm,
So it's so funny that you brought that up, because because yeah, it's so true, right? Like, oh my gosh, like, I feel like in the future, like, our grandkids or something will be like, oh my god, like, you wrote copy without without, like, the help of AI or chat GPT. And
yeah.
I love what you said about how it actually helps you do the parts of your job that you love.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, we need more of that, right?
Mhm. Amen. Amen.
We spend like a third of our lives working. So why not make more of it what you love?
Yes.
Um, when it comes to, like, humans still doing the final pass, I think
Mm,
that's something that a lot of people who criticize
mm,
AI don't really, like, they choose to ignore it. I feel like most people
mm.
say that naman, right? Na parang, syempre,
Yeah.
hindi naman yung AI yung gagawa ng lahat. Parang, you
Yeah.
still have to check, you still have
Mm,
to make sure it's within the context talaga that you want. So,
yeah.
yon. Sa mga listeners natin, guys, for the
Mm,
last time, kayo pa rin yung mag-check niyan.
yeah. For sure.
For sure.
Kailangan. Kailangan.
Now, I guess my next question is more about advice, I guess, for those who
Mm,
want to get into AI, but maybe they don't really know how, or the only thing they have access to at the moment is like Chat GPT, like the free version. Like, would you have any
mm.
tips for them about how to get into this and, like, start using it as an assistive tool?
So I have again two ways of approaching this. I think you can tell how my thought process works. I think in terms like bullet points, you can approach it based on what your interests are and what's closest to your line of work or what are tasks right in your work. So I'll give myself as an example. I'm very interested in art, digital design also, and I have struggles with finding perfect reference photos. So I was thinking like, oh, how can I find the perfect reference photo for paintings I wanna make? And because I can't find stock photos or I can't take like the photos I want, I started using Mid Journey, which is a text to image generator, right? So you just include, you write down the description of what it is that you want to see, and then the image is generated. So that's how I started using generative AI. Before ChatGPT, it was Mid Journey for me because I wanted to use that as a complement to my painting tools. So that's the interest based approach. If you want to go the work based approach, like what are the parts of work that you wanna make faster, or what are the parts of work, right, that you wanna delegate to the AI, so it's you can focus on the more joyful side of work. You can think of it like, okay, if I have a lot of meetings, I want it transcribed. Most people don't realize that, like Otter AI, like those different tools, that's already AI. Most people also don't realize Grammarly is an AI tool, right? So actually, we use so much AI in our day to day. So that's what I would recommend. Like, look at the parts of work. But if you're really overwhelmed, I'll give you a preview of one of the exercises at Eskwelabs. So whether it's on a Google Doc, Google Slide, or on a paper, on the left hand side, write down a workflow that you have. Try to make it as step by step as possible, and whether with a colored marker, analog, or like digitally, change the color. Go through each step and check, is it something that you can automate? Is it something that you can eliminate? Or do you keep it manual? And then if you're struggling, how do I even know if this is automatable? You can still Google that. So that's definite. Hey Google, can I automate this kind of step? Usually the answer will come out. So do that for each step. And then on the right hand side of the paper or of like the screen, write down the future state of your workflow. So now you have a systematic way of looking at all your workflows, every aspect of your work. What here can I give to AI? What do I want to keep for myself? If you realize that all of it you want to keep manual, that's totally up to you. No one's going to force you to AIfy everything. So that's just a sample exercise we do in Escalas, and I hope it helps you guys. I hope it's kind of fun actually, the exercise.
I'm sure it will help everyone. So guys, yan, may free lesson na kayo, okay? So so now you have to check out this class.
My
No, but thanks
company.
for that. Yeah, my freebie. No, but seriously though, I think that would be very helpful for a lot of people, especially like Gen Xers and maybe people who are a
Mhm.
bit older. At least it gives them like a good starting point also.
Mhm.
That's already fixed or like already based in something that they know.
Mhm.
So like you said, no one's a blank canvas. So they already have
Yeah.
that workflow. So
Mm.
yeah, thank you for that, Fran. Okay, and before we wrap up, my God, sobrang short. Joke. Too short.
Too short. We need more.
We need more. Guys, if gusto ninyo mag-sponsor so that we can have longer episodes, joke. Sobrang ano na. No, but sobrang not so subtle plug. But yeah, before we go, would there be any like initiatives or like upcoming classes that you want to tell our audience about? And also please let them know where they can find you and Eskwelabs online.
Ayan na. Okay. On LinkedIn, you can find me as Francine Tan. But because there are many Francine Tans on LinkedIn, my username or the handle is Fraffee, like Frappuccino and Coffee, Fraffee, because I'm very energetic as a person. For Eskwelabs event, so if you want to understand how to incorporate generative AI or AI in general into your work or your organization, because we run webinars for leaders, senior executives, managers, and individual contributors, you can sign up to our newsletter. We post the schedules there. So Eskwelabs, Eskwelabs, so eskwelabs.substack.com.
Thank you so much, Fran, and thanks for joining us today. It was such a fun conversation, and yeah, we can't wait to have you back in the next season.
Yes, please bring me back. Thank you, Wina. Thank you, everyone.
Join us again next week as we talk to Ray Lugtu, a digital and cultural transformation thought and action leader and the CEO of Hungry Workhorse, a digital and culture transformation consulting firm. Again, this has been your host, Weena. You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Weena_wonders and on LinkedIn at Weena Puangko Mutuk. Follow and let us know what you think via the Q&A tab on Spotify and the comments section on YouTube. This episode was edited by Blossoming Studios. For inquiries, you can reach out to asvd.work@gmail.com. Let's Talk Talent airs on Spotify and YouTube.